At the beginning of this week's Parsha Lecha, God tells Avram to go to the land that he shall show him, and there Avram will become a great nation. Following God's lead, Avram finds his way to Canaan. In Canaan, God appeared to him and promised that this land will belong to him and his descendants. Immediately afterwards, though, a famine took hold in the land, compelling Avram and his family to descend to Egypt for survival. On their way down to Egypt, Avram told his wife Sarai that should anyone ask, she should answer that she is his sister. Sure enough, when they arrive in Egypt, Sarai is asked about by none other than Paro himself. Thankfully, though, God protected them. Before anything untoward could happen to Sarai, Paro and his household were afflicted with great plagues. With that, Paro confronted Avram, asking him, how could he pass off his wife as a sister? But how did Paro know that Sarai was Avram's wife, when the text did not record any revelation of this fact? Shadal notes that Paro did not live in a vacuum. As we see later on by Yosef and by Moshe, Paro regularly consulted with his wise men and magicians for advice. Having a sudden, intense plague appear caused Paro to wonder and suspect its true cause. So he consulted with his advisors. They divined the reason and informed Paro of Sarai's true marital status. Rav David Tzvi Hoffman says that while the revelation is missing from the text of the Torah, the whole situation itself is almost, quote, copy-paste to that which occurs later on with Avimelech. Because of that later incident, where we are told of the full story, we can infer from our text how Paro found out what had happened. After God had struck Paro and his household with great plagues, he came to Paro in a dream, informing him that the plagues were brought upon him and his household because Sarai's true status is a married woman to Avram, both of whom are under God's direct protection. Ramban says that from the text, there was no divine revelation to Paro nor consulting with his advisors. Paro, however, was the head of Egypt, a religious man and a very smart person. Paro understood that from the suddenness and intensity of the plagues, who had contracted the plagues and who had not, what the plagues had affected and targeted, that it could only have been caused by one thing and one thing only. It was because of Sarai. As to why, it would only make sense if Sarai was a married woman and the divine was trying to stop him. Since she was with Avram, it can only make sense if she was actually married to Avram and not just his sister. If all this was true, then it meant that Avram and Sarai must be very important people for whom the divine is directly protecting them, even against a demigod such as Paro himself. Today, there is no prophecy where we hear God's voice. Prophecy, though, is only one form of communication. God, however, is constantly talking to us through many different ways. For example, through the events of our lives. He is leading us and hinting where he wants us to go and do. As Ramban interprets, Paro could have easily said, plagues are natural, and it was just his bad luck that he and his household contracted plagues at this time, something that was a common occurrence in those days. He didn't, though. He saw that there was a message that was being communicated to him, and he just needed to figure it out. A good lesson to take to heart, to keep our eyes and ears and mind open, and try to pick up on God's personal message. Shabbat Shalom.